Chapter 1 Chance Meeting. A couple weeks have passed from the end of the Festival of Rejuvenation, and it is a new year. A light snow is still on the ground. As the sun sets, a man walked into a small town south of Kalen, in the country of Bolin. The young man looked around at the town as he entered it. The town still seemed to have some of the decorations from the Festival of Rejuvenation still up. There was a small shop to the north that looked closed, a couple of houses, and an inn at the far end of the town. Cloaked in an ensemble of shadows, the young man known as Tristan Hawkwood cut a striking figure. Black pants clung to his form, paired with a dark, obsidian-hued shirt concealed beneath a rugged leather vest. Adorning his neck was a hooded black cloak, billowing subtly in the unseen currents of the world. By his side, a weapon of formidable reputation, the Kazan blade, hung gracefully from his hip. Its slender blade catching the light with a subtle gleam. The steel, folded meticulously, revealed a mesmerizing grain pattern along the length of the razor-sharp edge. The hamon, a delicate line etched into the steel, whispered of the blade's craftsmanship, showcasing the seamless fusion of hardened cutting edge and supple spine. The hilt, wrapped in silk with practiced precision, cradled the hand with a comfort born of centuries of refinement. The guard, an ornate masterpiece of metalwork, separated the hilt from the blade, its intricate design telling tales of ancient battles and disciplined artistry. Tristan looked up at the moon that lit the sky, and a sense of tiredness fell upon him. He paused as he felt he was being followed, looking back into the woods. He looked at the streets, and they were empty, almost like a ghost town.
I need to find a place to stay,
he whispered to himself. As he looked at the road he was walking on, he noticed it was better taken care of than most roads in a small town. Tristan started to walk towards the inn, passing the town hall and store. What caught his eye was that there was a blacksmith shop on the left side of the street. The blacksmith's place was next to the town hall, was a single-story hall that looked like it was a place for everyone could meet to receive important information. The inn on his right side of the street. He looked at the door to the inn, and above the door hung a sign, the Blue Sapphire. The door to the Blue Sapphire was a simple double-hinged door that swung either way. Tristan raised up his hand and placed it on the door and pushed his way through. The first thing he noticed when he entered the inn was a red-headed young lady standing behind a waist-high counter made of a sturdy oak wood and was painted in amber color. Tristan approached the young lady.
Is there any rooms available?
The young lady replied.
We are not full and have room.
Tristan asked.
How much for the rooms?
The young lady stated.
We have a room in the back barn for 1 iron, a room upstairs for 5 irons, and a room with a bath for 10 irons.
Tristan looked at his coins, longing for a bath, but realized he would need to work for his better room. He grabbed 5 irons and put it on the counter.
One more thing. Do you have any food or drink?
The young lady said to Tristan.
The bar is full, and if you have a seat in the dining room I will bring you a menu, but the choices are not many.
Tristan walked into the dining room to his left and saw half a dozen cherry-wood tables spread throughout the room. The 3 closest tables to him were occupied. The first table had a family eating together with an elderly man, his young wife, and 2 children not quite to their preteens. At another table was a couple that sat next to each other eating some what looked like steak and potatoes. The last of those 3 was another family, a husband, wife, and 1 baby. The young wife was breastfeeding the newborn and looked tired from what must have been a long journey. Approaching an unoccupied table, Tristan's gaze caught on a mysterious figure tucked within the shadows, his back against the wall. The man was clad in leather armor, sporting dark green pants and sturdy brown boots. A black hood obscured a fraction of his face, creating an aura of intrigue. Adjacent to him rested a substantial bag, and a blade, strikingly similar to Tristan's own, lay within easy reach. Beneath the concealment of the hood, Tristan discerned a glimpse of a scar, running vertically from the man's right eye down to the top of his cheek. The contours of a well-maintained beard emerged from beneath the cloak, adding an air of rugged enigma to the mysterious figure. The young lady walks over to Tristan and says,
Here is a menu. My name is Mary, and if you need anything just ask. Looks as if we have more people coming in. I will be back.
Mary walks towards the entrance as a group of men walk in. The first 2 men walked in slowly, followed by 8 others. One man was dressed in a white robe with blood-drop designs and a gold sash around his waist. On his shoulders there was a design of a golden rose with a sword through it. The rest wore similar robes with just silver sashes around their waist.
Have you seen a young man wearing black? He probably is only walking with a single sword.
Mary points in the general direction of Tristan and backs away from the group of men, explaining these are the only customers here. The voice Tristan heard sounded familiar, and he looked over his shoulder and recognized the white robes with blood-drop designs on them. The Order of the Blood Rose. He let out a loud sign, and his heart sank as he saw the rest of the men walk into the inn. 10 acolytes of the Order of the Blood entered the inn in total. 5 men start to slide along his right to envelop him, while 2 blocked the exit, and the final leader with 2 others started to move towards his left wall. Tristan remembered back to why these men are following him. Flashing back. It was a stormy night with thunder and lightning ruling the sky. He sat on a ledge hiding in the shadows, a large knife in his hand waiting for his target to leave the Temple of the Blood Rose. He knew he needed to wait for his target and that he was going to be paid once the job was done. It just made it easier that this Blood Rose priest had a thing for children and how it would be satisfying to rid the world of one more bastard and get paid to do it. Wet and uncomfortable, the rain poured down on him, making it difficult for him to see. With very little light, his target exited the temple. Unfortunately, there were 2. Knowing he wouldn't have an opportunity to get him again, he dropped down from under the shadows. Tristan's hand went under the old man's chin and over his mouth. His blade went through his chest and heart and came out from the other side. The other man screamed in shock as this elder was killed. He looked at Tristan and then ran for his own safety. It didn't take long for the other acolyte to disappear while he ran away.
Back to present.
Tristan thought.
It's been a year. You think they would give up by now?
Tristan Hawkwood, you now have nowhere to run. I am Ishtak, Order of the Blood Rose. It is time for you to pay for your sins against the Order.
Mary stealthily maneuvers to the rear of the bar, finding refuge behind a cluster of mead barrels. Simultaneously, families hasten up the staircase, seeking sanctuary in the rooms, vacating the once bustling dining area of the inn. In the corner, the young man casually lifts his feet off the table, his languid posture transforming as he slowly rises. He casts aside his hood, revealing a man with a shaven head, a well-kept beard, and a distinctive vertical scar that traverses his right eye, a mark resembling 3 claw gouges both above and below. A subtle smirk graces his face as he observes the unfolding scene. Unexpectedly, he remarks,
I didn't expect the rain would bring the rats so soon.
The captain of the Blood Rose, initially taken aback, transitions through a spectrum of emotions, from shock to excitement and, finally, to concern.
Rigard Kingsbury.
He acknowledges.
Didn't know we would kill 2 traitors to the Order today.
Ishtak unsheaths his broadsword, prompting the other acolytes of the Blood Order to follow suit. Ishtak strategically maneuvers toward the door, flanked by 2 acolytes who take up positions at the rear right. The air in the room crackles with tension as the confrontation between the Blood Rose and the apparent traitors escalates, the atmosphere heavy with the promise of imminent conflict. The first acolyte started to take a step towards Rigard, when Rigard bolted forwards, closing the distance on the 3 acolytes to the right of Ishrak. His movements were quick and decisive, catching the acolytes by surprise. In a blink of an eye, Rigard's blade was unsheathed, and already through the first acolyte's neck, beheading him instantly. Rigard was already starting his second swing before the acolyte's head even hit the ground. Tristan closed the distance on the 4 acolytes to the right of Iskar, swinging his blade at the weapon arm of the idle acolyte, severing his arm, causing both his sword and arm to drop to the ground. Tristan continued with that motion, spinning his body to aim at the leg of the second acolyte. The acolytes near Rigard closed the gap to surround him, taking swings with their swords, but as he was cutting towards the neck of his second acolyte, he deflected and parried the attacks with ease as his second swing took the head of the next acolyte. Using the momentum of the blade, he spun it around his hand and thrusted his blade through the eye of the third acolyte, skewering his brain, killing him instantly. Tristan's momentum continued through and crippled the leg of the second acolyte, dropping him to the floor. Ishkar and the acolyte near him ran towards the exit, the acolyte dropping his broadsword as he fled. The acolyte with the missing arm followed Ishkar out. Realizing they were unprepared for both together, Rigard turned to the last remaining acolyte and spun his sword in an upward motion, landing between his leg, cutting the man up to his belly button. The acolyte's eyes widened as he died in immense pain and was able to realize nothing could save him for the couple seconds that he lived after. Rigard stood stoically and watched Tristan finish his acolytes. As one acolyte of the Blood Rose was bleeding out on the ground, the final one was crawling towards the exit. Tristan swung his blade towards the almost dead acolyte, and out of nowhere a blade stopped his blade from the final blow. It was Rigard. Without Tristan noticing, he moved in and parried his attack. Tristan looked confused for a moment. Rigard smirked.
Let him suffer. He is dead anyway.
The last acolyte of the Blood Rose crawled his way out of the inn and died only 15 feet outside the door. Rigard flashing back. A couple of years ago, Rigard came to a small town in Bolin. As he was settling down, a nice family took him in and gave him room and shelter. It was the family he wished he had when growing up before he was forced to leave his family at a young age. The father was a simple man who worked the land, the mother helped educate the local children, and there were 2 daughters who were 8 years old and 10 years old. Rigard spent a week with the family, helping around their farm and doing odd jobs to repay them for their hospitality. Rigard knew he couldn't stay there forever, but didn't want to leave. One night Rigard left to find some bandits, which were bothering the nearby town. The night looking for the bandits didn't go well, and he couldn't find any trace of them. As he returned to the farm, he saw the wheat barn on fire, and in the house, he saw 8 individuals dressed in the Order of the Blood Rose robes. As he ran into the farmhouse, the father was hung from the ceiling disemboweled, the mother was naked from the waist down with her throat slit. As Rigard entered the farmhouse, the 2 acolytes slit the throats of the little girls. Rigard went into a rage, slaughtering every Order of the Blood Rose present. After the last acolyte was dead, he dropped to his knees and wept in front of the family that treated him so well, thinking,
Only if I had been here earlier.
The next morning, he buried the family's bodies in graves near the house and gave a prayer he learned from his time in the North Otros temple. At this time, he vowed to destroy this evil cult wherever he saw them. He walked into one of the temples of the Blood Rose. The first acolyte he saw struck down quickly. He systematically went through the temple, killing every acolyte he could find, and when he left the temple, he was covered in blood. Rigard back to current time. As the commotion stopped, and the last acolyte was dead or left the inn, Mary walks out from behind the barrels. As Mary began to approach both Rigard and Tristan as they sheathed their blades.
I am Rigard Kingsbury. I thought I was the only one who was wanted by them.
His head stretched out towards Tristan.
They call me Tristan Hawkwood. I guess I do that to people.
He grabs the inside of Rigard's forearm.
It's good to meet you.
Mary yelled.
Don't think I'm going to be the one to pick this mess up to you.
Throw in our rooms, and we will help you clean this up.
Laughed Rigard. Looking at Tristan, Rigard smiles.
What are you waiting for? Grab a body.
Rigard walks over and picks up the first headless acolyte and begins to drop the body outside the inn. They loaded up the dead acolytes on a trailer the innkeeper gave them so they could put the bodies deeper in the woods. They returned to the inn tired.
At least that is over with,
remarked Tristan.
As he finished that statement, Mary arrived with a scrub bucket and some brushes.
You don't think I can serve a breakfast in an inn that looks like this?
It took a while for the 2 to clean up the inn, and it was late in the night when Mary gave the keys to Tristan and Rigard and said,
You can find your rooms upstairs. I will talk with the town mayor tomorrow. I think he could use some individuals with your skills.
Rigard walked up to his room and opened the door. As he entered, he closed the door behind him. He looked around, and the room was a fairly nice room, a bed in the far corner, a desk and chair in the other, and a small room that held a bath. Next to the bed was a stand to hang armor, clothes, and weapons. He placed his backpack next to the stand and hung his armor and weapons. Rigard thought,
I may have found a possible ally to help me in fighting the darkness.
Rigard took his bath and laid his head down. Time to rest now. Tomorrow is a new day.